someone who has a very good professional background into the environment. He goes by the name Raymond Pryce. Let us welcome tonight in studio, Mr. Pryce. Good night, Mr. Pryce.
Good evening, Andre. Good evening to your viewers and your listeners, especially those in East Central St. Catherine.
Plenty of them.
Yes, well, they're all over the country and all over the Jamaican diaspora. And if the reports I've received are true, elsewhere throughout the Caribbean as well.
That is my viewers you're talking, partner?
Your viewers.
So that means that anywhere you go, the people, them tell you, oh, Mr. Pryce, I saw you last night on PDTV.
Well, I have one better than that for you. Yesterday, one of my constituents sang a song dedicated entirely to Andre Stevens.
One of your constituents. I wonder if it's the same one that is on my show. Producer, play that little video with that lady for me now, please. I wonder if it is she.
Especially when people come in on the house.
Big up yourself, Mr. Andre Stevenson. And the lady this one say, me tired of the green people, them. Me tired of them. Power to the world. PMP for life. We are get them out this time clean. And them now come back in. We no want to see them no more.
Is that the lady you're talking about, Comrade, Mr. Pryce?
The one and only.
What is her name?
Well, I'll tell you what her, most people call her Bling.
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 Mama Bling. Mm-hmm. But you know she's the most famous comrade in Jamaica. Because it's one... Can you play what is her favorite producer? Remind Jamaica about her, no man. Remind Jamaica tonight about her. Mama Bling.
Help. We out of the ladder.
We need your divine intervention. We're tired of the labor rights. We're tired of the green people. We are so far. We can't take it no more. We need this. We need it. Help. Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength. Is a liberator. Drum.
Mr. Pryce, Happy New Year to you.
And the same to you, sir.
Raymond Pryce, as an environmentalist, have you ever seen where climate change has an impact on roads?
The truth of the matter is this. Climate change will increasingly impact all aspects of national life, or I should say human life, not just in Jamaica, across the world. However, to attempt to say in a very discreet way that the potholes that all of us have to get to know and to traverse are the result of climate change in Jamaica is actually an unfortunate development, because when one holds high office, they have a responsibility to public education, to use every opportunity to advance society's knowledge base and the access to information that people have to make better decisions.
Yes.
If you want to excuse, or if one wants to excuse himself because of underperformance, then we can understand somebody hiding behind any topic or any issue. But the reference made by Prime Minister Andrew Holness in Parliament recently to excuse himself and the more than 100 months since February 25 that he has been Prime Minister from any responsibility for the poor condition of our roads is truly unfortunate and regrettable. I was speaking with a colleague earlier today. In the banks, they have what is known as KYC, Know Your Customer. But for Jamaican motorists, we have what is known as KYP, Know Your Pothole.
Jesus. Repeat that, Mr. Pryce.
KYP, Know Your Pothole. Because if you're driving on roads that you are familiar with and you know your pothole, then you can spare the tire and spare the rim and spare the front end parts. But if you turn on unfamiliar roads and drop in potholes that are not known to you, you could end up paying in time and serious money. Now, I just want listeners and viewers to understand, climate change affects countries like Jamaica, small island developing states, in a very peculiar way. It's almost as if, you know, the expression, all of us as Jamaicans know the expression, the good will suffer for the bad. After the industrialization of countries like England and Germany in the early 1900s, the level of carbon dioxide that has been emitted into the atmosphere each year has broken the records of the previous year. And that carbon dioxide has led to the increased heat trapped in the atmosphere. And that has changed weather patterns. And that has led to what we know as global warming. And global warming is the mother and father of climate change. But climate change does not identify a country such as Jamaica and said, we're going to make a meal out of your roads. The real problem with our roads is they are poorly designed, and in most cases, they are not properly maintained. In his presentation, the Prime Minister relied on a familiar trick that he has been pulling out of his hat from time to time.
Blaming everyone except himself.
And in particular, as he said, for 40 years, we have had a road problem. But the road problem was worse in 18 years while the PNP was in office. The Prime Minister should exercise a little bit more gratitude when he speaks about the 18 years. And I'll tell you why I say that.
Yes.
The 18 years famously began in 1989 when Michael Manley led the PNP to a victory over the JLP and Edward Seaga. At that time, based on his own accounts, Prime Minister Andrew Holness would have been a student at St. Catherine High School. He famously speaks about the fact that he was born in a one or sometimes he says a two-bedroom board structure in the outskirts of Spanish Town. 18 years after the PNP came in office, he was a parliamentarian, a graduate of the University of the West Indies, despite his humble beginnings. And not only was he a parliamentarian after the 18 years, he became education minister.
Yes.
And 3 years after the 18 years, he became prime minister. So something good, something wonderful, something marvelous must have happened in the 18 years that someone born on the fringes of Spanish Town in abject poverty, as per his own description, could, during those 18 years, complete high school, a school he attended based on common entrance, policies of the PNP, grant aided as it was based on policies of the PNP, concluded his secondary school, commenced and concluded tertiary, went into Gordon House, and then into Jamaica House. So in those 18 years, Andrew Holness moved from Board House to Garden House to Jamaica House to Big House.
Yes,
you would expect with all of that progress for him as a result of the 18 years, he would have a little bit more piousness, humility, gratitude in his voice when he speaks. But let's get back to the core issue. The road to St. Thomas, the highway, if you will.
Yes.
A year ago, I appeared on your program and I spoke about it.
A year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago. Thank you, sir. I had reason at the time to drive over to Morant Bay and experience the roads. And at a point in the journey, I became concerned that based on my knowledge of the waves that hit against the shoreline, which have removed the beach after Hurricane Ivan, that how the road was being constructed, I thought that even if we had a Category 1 hurricane to impact that shoreline, the storm surges would have removed the roads. When I spoke about it on your program, many people said I was being partisan. Some even questioned the base of my knowledge in such matters. On July 3rd, St. Thomas had a near miss with Hurricane Beryl. Remember, when Hurricane Beryl struck, the main impact was in the south central and the southwest part of the island, Manchester, and in particular St. Elizabeth. The rest of us were spared. Yet that road collapsed. That road was not built in between 1989 and 2007.
Repeat that one, Mr. Pryce.
That road was not built between 1989 and 2007. And since the Prime Minister is so aware of climate change, he should have used that awareness as the chairman of cabinet, as the bro god, as the Prime Minister, who is in charge of the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, as well as the Ministry of Works. He should have used that knowledge of climate change that he spoke about in Parliament this week to say to the engineers that what is needed here is not a regular roadway, but rather a seawall on top of which the road would then be laid. He didn't apply that knowledge then. Yet, the road that was constructed within the 9 years of his administration failed the litmus test and is still incomplete as a result of the passage of Hurricane Beryl, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. 6 months later, they still have not been able to rectify the problem. And I go back to the discussion we had then, because it wasn't comfortable for me to make the suggestion I made. But the information based on my academic and professional background, it was obvious, it was plain that a disaster would happen. So I'm going to use this opportunity, now that the Prime Minister has appreciated the importance of prioritizing climate resilience in infrastructural development, that him take shame out time I go back to the drawing board with the contractors of that leg of the highway and have it properly constructed. After all, we are paying for it through a loan that children not yet born, Jamaicans not yet alive, will have to pay for.
So if that is the argument you're going by, are you saying then potentially if we get hit by another hurricane or any other natural disaster, the St. Thomas Road might have challenges again?
Major challenges. And it's not just the St. Thomas Road. There are communities across Jamaica like Anatole Bay, like Parity, Anatole Bay in St. Mary and Parity in St. Elizabeth, that all of the projections, all of the models, the computer models confirm that if we don't even have to be hit by a hurricane. If there's a system to the south of Jamaica that generates storm surges for a prolonged period of time, the town of Parity in St. Elizabeth could become flooded by seawater. And we don't even need to wait until we have a weather event. We're already experiencing saltwater intrusion in a lot of the coastal towns and coastal communities across Jamaica. And there is the best time to have started to design solutions that will mitigate against those problems was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. The Prime Minister missed an awesome opportunity, Andre. Instead of saying with reasonableness, sincerity, and compassion that his administration has missed the mark in terms of mainstreaming climate resilience.
Yes.
And that they would use the experience of the roadway in St. Thomas and make a commitment to ensure that instead of Reach or Spark or whatever the pivot or whatever the roughshod measures for patching roads he's using, if he had used the opportunity to invite a national understanding and partnership that key thoroughfares would be redesigned to include appropriate drainage, then you could say, at least in the closing days of his administration, in the closing days of his administration, because let's be fair, time coming, soon gone. But until he is removed through the ballots, he's still in the job. If he had used that platform in the closing moments of his administration to say, I have wasted the 9 years, I have now learned from that waste, and for the little time I have left, I'm going to do things differently until Marky G takes over. Then at least generations in the future could view him with some amount of empathy. But this bombast, this chest beating, and look at how hollow it fell. He turned around to the members of his side. And when he saw that they were not reverberating as he had perhaps rehearsed or choreographed or expected, he then said, I don't even have to answer the question. I think the Wholeness Administration has replaced the national pantomime.
Repeat that! Repeat that, Raymond Pryce. The one. Ball out! Cut, Mr. Pryce, what you just said.
I think the Wholeness Administration has replaced the Little Theatre Movement, LTM, which usually does the national pantomime,
Mighty God,
as the main theatre of drama in the society.
Mighty God. What really can go so?
Ask Derek Morgan.
The producer lame tonight, man. Imagine producer lick shot when they shot them for lick, no man. So you're saying that they have become the national clowns, the circus.
Well, I think, you know, a clown wearing a crown is not a king. He's the circus.
A clown is not a. Repeat that one.
A clown wearing a crown is not a king. It's just a clown. And there's a lot of cloning that has been happening. Well, clowning and cloning, because today I noticed, for example, an announcement that tourism workers will no longer pay tax on their gratuity. A few months ago, before the end of the year, when Senator Janice Allen made that proposal, she was mocked. Today, they have cloned her proposal, you know, but again, in these closing moments of that administration, I expect many of anything to be attempted.
So it's, you know, it's a long time not been to a pantomime, you know. So to hear that.
The whole country was at a pantomime when they listened to the Prime Minister blame climate change for the failures of his administration.
Let us play back the video with him and Marky G at it in the Parliament. Can you find back that video? Let us hear what the Prime Minister really said, Jamaica, about... So Mr. Pryce said it was a pantomime experience. No.
All across Jamaica, the complaints are the same. Driving and walking on the roads require the same amount of energy as navigating an obstacle course. Prime Minister Andrew Holness reiterated that heavy rains in late 2024 contributed to the problem.
Old and aging infrastructure that was not properly maintained over the last 30 years of underinvestment and worsening, and then, Mr. Speaker, the worsening effects of climate change, destroying that infrastructure.
To blame the appalling state of the road network in Jamaica today on climate change is just totally disingenuous. The reality is that there has been an absence of any proper road maintenance policy for years, and you have been in office for 9 years, so you have superintended 9 years of neglect over the maintenance of Jamaica's road network, for which the people are holding you accountable now.
Opposition leader Mark Golding threw punches at the JLP administration for abandoning policies such as a road maintenance fund. But for Mr. Holness, a road maintenance fund, for example, comes with administrative expenses. Plus,
the funds generated from this special tax was never enough in the first place. In other words, even with the existence of a road maintenance fund, Jamaica's road in 2015, 2014, 2013, and 2011 were in no better condition than they were today. The same protests that existed about bad roads existed then that existed now. The truth is, Mr. Speaker, that the road maintenance fund had no impact.
Despite the growth in fiscal space, which is a result of the reforms and the successful execution of the IMF program under the Portia-Simpson-Miller administration, which has yielded a great legacy to this country, you have not used those resources on the road network. You have used it on a proliferation of other things. And to say that climate change is responsible for all of the potholes in the country is absolute nonsense. And the people don't believe it, and they don't accept it, and you're going to pay the consequences of it politically in the months to come.
a general election is expected this year. So, what's the fix? The Prime Minister reminded the country that a road patching program is on the way.
This phase is expected to continue until the end of March 2025. Currently, the mitigation program is 55% complete, and I am confident that we will meet our targets within the planned time frame, providing much-needed relief to our citizens.
14 Grade 1 contractors have been mobilized. Still, there are concerns.
There are concerns that have been raised regarding the patching, that the contractors patch a piece, and then there's a little pothole beside it. They leave that little pothole and they've gone to another piece. We have interrogated that. Of course, the claim is that they're being economical. They don't want to focus on the small potholes. They want to focus on the big ones because that makes the driving surface easier. But we have said to them, look, patch the road properly. A small pothole left will become a big one. So just patch it now.
Mr. Holness reiterated that under the Spark program, more extensive road repairs will be done to include drainage.
The target is that we will probably have between 600 and 660 roads that will be improved island-wide under the Spark program. That, Mr. Speaker, will have a massive impact.
Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
Mr. Pryce.
Yes, sir.
He said that basically the road maintenance fund had no impact on the road infrastructure. What's your response to him?
Well, if the road maintenance fund had no impact, removing it certainly didn't help the situation. Recall that when the JLP chairman served rather briefly as the person in charge of local government, the road maintenance fund was vanquished from the municipal corporations and evaporated in the National Consolidated Fund, where there can be no trace of what its impact is. So the Prime Minister is actually confessing again that a step taken by his administration has been proven to have been a silly move, a vacuous move, a move that has no tangible merit.
Silly, vacuous, and no tangible merit. But he also said he has instructed the people to patch the roads.
Yes.
This patching exercise, is it having any efficient impact on the road infrastructure across the island?
Well, let's talk about East Central St. Catherine and the Newland Main Road, for example. Especially in the vicinity of Jung heading up to Grange Lane, where it runs adjacent to West Cumberland. There is an earthen drain that is there. Residents tell me that when they first bought their homes in West Cumberland, there was enough land, a buffer between the actual drain and their perimeter fence.
Mm-hmm.
Today, many of them, that buffer has totally been eroded. And part of the reason for the erosion is that the person that has been there now for 106 months, instead of completing the concreting of the drain, has taken to putting heavy equipment in the earthen drain to scrape away the bushes as they grow, which has also aided in the erosion of the soil and now threatening the embankment to the road, as well as the embankment at the back of people's homes. In fact, in some sections, you see the drain from West Cumberland jutting out, but the land, the soil beneath the drain has been eroded. So the concrete will soon collapse. In 2020, when I became the candidate, I said that within the first 6 months, I would have brought the National Works Agency to do an assessment for a major infrastructure project, which would be to have proper drainage along the entire stretch from Grange Lane all the way through to Southborough. The then the incumbent member of parliament, he's incumbent. Let's give him the title he deserves in the closing moments of the Holness administration before the final curtain call. He went on the location and said that he already had resources to do it and that it would have commenced that October. Recall the elections in 2020 was September 3, 2020. So you have had October 2020, October 2021, October 2022, October 2023, October 2024. And nothing has been done. The channel is wider and the threat to property from residents of West Cumberland is even greater and more severe.
Wow.
So when you talk about the patching program, and this is a point that future Prime Minister Mark Golding was making when he said that the problem is the maintenance. We build roads from time to time, but we don't put in the infrastructure or the program of maintenance to protect the roads. So most of the roads in Jamaica, the road themselves is the drain because there are no drains to take off stormwater. So how effective is the patching in East Central St. Catherine? I don't know if it's the spark reach or if it's the reach a spark or if the pivot in one. But what I can tell you is that on day one, a crew came and they excavated the potholes, made them square. On day 2, a different crew came, and there was a dusting of marl in the excavated, in the cavern. And then on day 3 came a patch and spray crew and a handheld roller to compress and compact it all. And some of those roads are already being dug up. A few months ago, I came across a resident who says, Mr. Pryce, says because him don't drive here, why him don't know, say it need to fix. So some green cones were procured and placed in the potholes as an eye-opener. Well, fortunately, thanks to the National Works Agency, some of those have now been resolved. But then if you look on
green cones in the potholes for them to identify the holes.
A color he would recognize, yes.
Oh, so the hole turned green.
Well, there you go. But the late attempt to put a band-aid on an open wound, if you will,
yes,
has been met by the residents saying they're tired of the 3-card tricks, and they're anticipating a transformative representative who would speak truth to them with respect, transparency, and integrity, who will be held accountable by them for the state resources that are awarded, not to the individual who is the MP, but to the constituency for the development and the benefit of the constituents. And that has not happened in East Central St. Catherine. And I dare say it has not happened in many other parts of the country. And the sad thing is, I saw in the news where a councillor or council caretaker said if there was a prize for a trophy for the worst MP, Mr. Henriquez, the JLP MP in Northwest Clarendon, would get it. I'm sorry to disappoint that councillor, because Mr. Henriquez could best only get second place, because the first place is palavering all over East Central St. Catherine.
Who is that?
How do I put it? The incumbent who will be facing his final curtain call sometime soon.
Oh, that one. State Minister in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Am I correct?
Well, I'm not sure, because that would, if that was the truth, I mean, that's a title, but if he actually had the post, because there's a difference between a title and a post. If he actually had the post, he would have known better than to have put out on social media images using the Jamaican flag to dishonor former prime ministers who have served this country with distinction. You see, the hallmark of governance has always been we have a very competitive politics at home.
Yes.
But when you go abroad as a minister of government, you are not only representing the Jamaicans on the island and the Jamaicans in the diaspora, but you are representing brand Jamaica to a global audience that has come to expect responsibleness, maturity, and integrity.
True.
And that individual embarrassed the Prime Minister and the administration of the Andrew government. The entire cabinet, they held their heads in shame. They may not have said it publicly, but I know for a fact that privately they were utterly disappointed and embarrassed.
So why them never? Oh, so that's why I'm not doing much of those foreign affairs responsibilities.
You mean they have grounded him?
Oh, they put him in the naughty corner.
I don't know. I'm asking.
you have a point there. Because we don't really see him doing much.
Well, that is exactly how he's described in East Central St. Catherine. We don't really see him doing much.